Someone is watching you right now, not a theory, not a metaphor. Right now, as you sit there with your phone in your hand or your laptop open on your desk, data is being pulled from your device, sorted into categories, matched against your identity, and sold to people you have never met and never will. The device you're reading this on knows what you searched for at midnight last week. It knows the medical symptom you looked up and immediately regretted. It knows the financial situation you've never told anyone about. And the browser you used to search all of that, the one sitting right there on your screen, may have been the one selling you out the entire time. I didn't want to just talk about this. I wanted to prove it. So I actually sat down and tested 5 of the most popular browsers that market themselves as private, secure, or trustworthy. I looked at their technical architecture, their legal history, their data collection policies, their court records, and their real-world behavior. What I found genuinely disturbed me, not because the truth is complicated, but because it is so simple, so documented, and so deliberately hidden from the people it affects most. By the time you finish watching this, you will not look at your browser the same way again. Let's start with the browser that runs on more devices than any other software in human history, Google Chrome. And I want to be careful here, because this is not about hating a product. This is about facts that are in federal court records. Chrome currently holds approximately 66% of the global browser market as of 2025. That means 2 out of every 3 people reading this are probably using it right now. And here's what those people are not being told. According to research conducted across multiple privacy analysis platforms and App Store data disclosures, Google Chrome collects 20 distinct categories of user data. The average competing browser collects 20 categories. That includes your browsing history, your search queries, your location data, your contact information, your financial details, your device identifiers, your usage patterns, your diagnostics, and more. Chrome is also the only major browser that has been documented collecting financial information, meaning payment methods, card numbers, and banking details, alongside a user's contact list pulled directly from their device. Think about what that means in practice. Every time you open Chrome, you're handing the world's largest advertising company a detailed file on your behavior, your relationships, your finances, and your location. And that company's entire revenue model, over 77% of Alphabet's total revenue in recent years, depends on that file being as complete and accurate as possible. But the part that needs to be discussed loudly and clearly is not just what Chrome collects. It is what Chrome told you it was not collecting. The incognito mode scandal is one of the most significant consumer deception cases in the history of the internet, and most people still don't know what happened. In 2020, a class action lawsuit was filed in federal court against Google, alleging that the company systematically misled users into believing that incognito mode made their browsing private. The lawsuit alleged that even while using incognito, Google's advertising infrastructure, its analytics tools, its tracking pixels, its fingerprinting scripts, continued to collect and catalog user behavior without interruption. The case was not a fringe legal effort. It was backed by documented technical evidence and represented millions of users. Google did not successfully defend against it. In December 2023, Google agreed to settle the lawsuit. As part of that settlement, Google was required to delete billions of data records. Not thousands, not millions, but billions, collected from users who believed, based on Google's own representation, that they were invisible. The original lawsuit sought $5 billion on behalf of affected users. The settlement required no direct payment to those users, but what it did do was confirm in legal terms that incognito mode was never what it claimed to be. When you open an incognito window, your browser does not save a local history on your device. That part is true, but your internet service provider sees every domain you visit. Every website using Google's advertising tools sees your activity. Google itself sees your behavior. The only thing incognito mode actually does is prevent the person sitting next to you from scrolling through your browser history later. That is the full extent of the protection. Everything else was marketing language designed to make you feel safe while you continued to be monitored. Chrome is browser number 1, tested and eliminated not on opinion, but on documented legal record and verified data collection practices. Firefox still transmits telemetry data back to Mozilla by default. This includes usage statistics, crash reports, and technical performance information. You can disable this in settings, and Mozilla makes the option relatively easy to find, but the fact that it is enabled by default means most users are sharing data they do not realize they're sharing. A nonprofit collecting your data is still an organization collecting your data. The motivation may be different, but the technical reality is the same. There is also a deeper limitation that no browser setting can fully address. Firefox's tracking protection eliminates cross-site tracking cookies and known fingerprinting scripts, but it does not touch the layer beneath the browser, Your internet service provider, whether that is a major telecom in the United States, a national carrier in Europe, or a regional ISP anywhere else in the world, can see every domain you visit regardless of which browser you use. HTTPS encryption protects the content of the page you are reading, but it does not hide the destination. Your ISP knows you visited a medical information website at 11 at night. It knows you were on a legal advice forum on a Tuesday morning. It knows the financial news outlet you check before anyone else in your house is awake. That behavioral data is valuable. In the United States, following the repeal of FCC broadband privacy rules in 2017, internet service providers have been legally permitted to collect and sell that data to third parties. Firefox, by itself, operating at the browser layer, cannot stop that. What Firefox gives you is a genuinely cleaner experience inside the browser, less cross-site tracking, fewer intrusive advertising scripts, a more honest relationship between you and the software. What it cannot give you is invisibility at the network level. Think of it this way. Switching from Chrome to Firefox is like switching from a house with no locks to a house with real locks on the doors. It is a meaningful and important upgrade, but the street outside the house still exists, and people on that street can still see which house you walk into. Firefox is browser number 2. Genuinely better, meaningfully more honest, and a real improvement for the average person. But serious privacy requires more than Firefox alone can deliver. Browser number 3 is DuckDuckGo, and this one arrives with enormous brand credibility because DuckDuckGo built its entire public identity on a single promise: we do not track you. The search engine launched in 2008, gained massive momentum following the Snowden revelations in 2013, and by 2025 was processing hundreds of millions of searches per month from users who specifically chose it to avoid the surveillance model that Google represents. When DuckDuckGo released a full standalone browser, the assumption among privacy-conscious users was obvious. If the search engine doesn't track you, the browser must be the gold standard. The reality is more nuanced than that, and the nuance matters. DuckDuckGo browser blocks third-party trackers from advertising networks, including those operated by Google and Meta. It blocks cookie consent pop-ups, email trackers, and tracking pixels by default. It routes all searches through DuckDuckGo's private search engine automatically, meaning your search queries are not being logged against your identity the way they would be through Google. It plays YouTube videos in a way that reduces Google's ability to serve targeted advertising based on your viewing behavior. The browser also has a feature called the Fire button, a single tap that immediately destroys all your browsing data, cookies, history, and cached information from that session. It is a genuinely useful feature, not a gimmick, and it addresses the reality that most people never manually clear their browser data, even when they intend to. DuckDuckGo's data collection profile is similar to Firefox: contact information, basic identifiers, usage data, and diagnostics. That puts it dramatically ahead of Chrome and in an honest position relative to what it actually does with that data. But here is the limitation that does not get discussed enough, and it is a technical one. DuckDuckGo's privacy protections are strong within their defined scope. They cover the tracking layer, the scripts and cookies and pixels that follow you from website to website. They do not cover the network layer. They do not cover your ISP. They do not cover the operating system running beneath the browser. And unlike Firefox, which has a large open source community constantly auditing its code and a long public track record of responding to security disclosures, DuckDuckGo's browser has less transparency in its underlying architecture and fewer advanced customization options for users who want to go deeper than the defaults. In 2022, it was revealed that DuckDuckGo had a data sharing agreement with Microsoft that allowed Microsoft's tracking scripts to operate in the browser in ways that other trackers were blocked. DuckDuckGo acknowledged this and has since updated its policies and protections, but the episode is a useful reminder that brand reputation and technical reality are not always the same thing, and that even privacy-focused companies operate within business relationships that create compromises. DuckDuckGo browser is a strong recommendation for users who want something cleaner and simpler than Chrome without investing any technical effort. It is fast, it is honest in its current form, and it is a meaningful upgrade for the majority of everyday users. But for people who are serious about privacy as a technical requirement rather than a preference, it still has gaps. Browser number 3. Solid, genuinely useful, but not the answer to the deeper question. Browser number 4 is Brave, and this is where the conversation becomes genuinely interesting because Brave is arguably the most sophisticated mainstream privacy browser available to everyday users right now, and most people who would benefit from it have never installed it. Brave was founded in 2015 by Brendan Eich, who was previously the co-founder of Mozilla and the creator of JavaScript. It launched its stable version in 2019 and has grown to over 85 million monthly active users as of 2025. Those numbers reflect something real. Brave is not a niche tool for technical specialists. It is a complete, polished, fast browser that works on every major platform and handles every website that Chrome handles, because it is built on the same open source Chromium foundation. When you install Brave and open it for the first time, there is no configuration required, no privacy settings to hunt through, no extensions to install before the browser becomes useful. The moment it launches, it is already blocking third-party advertisements, blocking tracking scripts, blocking fingerprinting attempts, and blocking cross-site cookie tracking. All of that happens automatically, invisibly, and immediately. Pages load faster because the scripts that slow them down are not running. The internet feels noticeably cleaner within minutes of switching. Brave's data collection profile is among the leanest of any mainstream browser, identifiers and usage data only compared to Chrome's 20 categories. Brave also has a feature that no other mainstream browser offers natively, and it is worth pausing on because it represents a genuine leap in built-in protection. Within Brave, you can open a private window with Tor routing built directly into the browser, no separate download. No technical configuration, no additional software. You open a special window and your traffic is automatically routed through the Tor network, giving you a meaningful layer of anonymity for sensitive browsing without requiring you to understand how Tor works at a technical level. That is a remarkable thing to have built into a browser that also works exactly like Chrome and takes 5 minutes to switch to. For the vast majority of people watching this, Brave is the single most practical recommendation available. Install it today, import your bookmarks from Chrome in 60 seconds, and you are immediately more private than the overwhelming majority of internet users without changing a single habit or learning a single new skill. But Brave is not without complexity, and this is where intellectual honesty requires slowing down. Brave operates an optional advertising system called Brave Rewards. The concept is this. You opt in to see privacy-respecting advertisements served directly by Brave, and in exchange, you earn cryptocurrency tokens called BATs, Basic Attention Token, which you can convert or use within the Brave ecosystem. The system is genuinely optional. You do not have to enable it. You do not have to interact with it. But when you do enable Brave Rewards, data collection increases. Brave collects information about your browsing patterns, your search behavior, and your content preferences to serve those ads in a way that is supposedly privacy-preserving. The architecture of how that data is handled is different from Google's model, but the existence of an advertising system inside a browser whose identity is built on blocking advertising is a tension that deserves acknowledgement rather than dismissal. Privacy researchers and independent auditors have generally concluded that Brave's default state, rewards disabled, standard settings, represents one of the strongest privacy profiles of any mainstream browser currently available. The reward system introduces complexity that power users should research before enabling. The distinction between these two states matters enormously, and Brave deserves credit for making the more private option the default, rather than burying it. Brave is browser number 4, the best practical choice for everyday users, fast, honest in its default configuration, and a genuine leap forward from anything most people are currently using. But it is still not the browser in this test that stands completely apart from the others at an architectural level. That is browser number 5, Tor browser. And before the assumptions start forming, stop. The reputation that Tor carries in popular culture, that it is a tool for criminals, for dark web activity, for people doing things they should not be doing, is one of the most successful and most damaging pieces of misinformation in the history of consumer technology. The actual history of Tor is the opposite of that narrative. The core technology behind Tor, known as onion routing, was developed in the mid-1990s by researchers at the United States Naval Research Laboratory. The people who built Tor were not criminals. They were mathematicians and computer scientists working for the American military, specifically trying to protect intelligence communications from foreign surveillance. The technology was later released as an open source project precisely because its developers understood that a privacy network only works if many different kinds of people use it, because a network used only by intelligence operatives is easy to identify and monitor. Today, Tor is used by journalists working in authoritarian countries to safely communicate with sources. It is used by whistleblowers sending sensitive documents to newsrooms. It is used by human rights activists in countries where internet access is monitored and controlled by governments. Major news organizations maintain onion sites specifically to allow sources to reach them through Tor safely. The United States government, through agencies including the State Department and the Broadcasting Board of Governors, has historically funded Tor development because the technology protects American interests in environments where free information flow is suppressed. This is not a tool for criminals. This is infrastructure for freedom, and it happens to also be available to ordinary people who simply do not want to be tracked. Here is how Tor actually works, because the technology is genuinely worth understanding. When you use Tor browser, your internet traffic does not travel directly from your device to the website you are visiting. Instead, it is encrypted in multiple layers, like the layers of an onion, which is where the name comes from, and then routed through a series of 3 volunteer-operated servers called relays. The first relay, called the guard node, knows your IP address, but has no information about where your traffic is going. The second relay, called the middle node, knows neither your identity nor your destination. It only knows the previous and next point in the chain. The third relay, called the exit node, knows the destination website, but has no information about who originated the request. No single point in the entire chain has complete information. The mathematical design makes it architecturally impossible for any single node to connect the sender to the destination. As of mid-2025, the Tor network operates approximately 8,000 active relays worldwide, run by volunteers in dozens of countries who have no relationship with each other and no shared incentive to cooperate against users. In Tor, browser's data collection policy is the simplest of any browser tested. It collects nothing. 0 categories. No identifiers, no usage data, no crash reports, no contact information. When you close Tor browser, the session is gone. There's nothing stored, nothing transmitted, nothing retained. Tor does have real limitations, and you deserve the honest truth about every one of them. Tor is slower than any other browser on this list, because your traffic is being encrypted in multiple layers and bounced through 3 separate servers in 3 different countries. Before it reaches its destination, load times are longer. Streaming video is generally not practical. Some websites actively detect and block Tor traffic, either because they are trying to prevent abuse or because they have relationships with advertising networks that depend on user identification. And Tor cannot protect you if you voluntarily identify yourself while using it. If you open Tor browser and then log into your personal Gmail account, you have told Google exactly who you are. The anonymity Tor provides operates at the network level. It hides where your traffic comes from, but it cannot override a decision you make to hand your identity to a website directly. These limitations are real, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. But here's the frame that matters. For the specific concern that most people actually have, being tracked, profiled, and monitored without their knowledge or consent by corporations whose business model depends on knowing everything about them, Tor is the only browser in this test that addresses that concern at the architectural level. Every other browser on this list offers privacy as a layer applied on top of a system that was not originally designed with privacy as its foundation. Tor is different. Privacy is not a feature added to Tor. Privacy is the reason Tor exists. The mathematical structure of onion routing was designed specifically so that surveillance is not just difficult, but structurally impossible for any single observer. That is a fundamentally different category of protection. And no setting, no extension, no privacy policy, and no brand promise from any other browser can replicate it. Here is the bigger picture that ties all 5 browsers together. And this is the part that most technology coverage leaves out entirely because it is uncomfortable, and it does not fit neatly into a product recommendation. A private browser running on a standard operating system connected through a major internet service provider on a device that also runs social media applications is not a complete privacy solution. It is a meaningful improvement, but it is not the whole picture. Your ISP sees the domains you visit unless you're using Tor or a trustworthy VPN that encrypts traffic before it leaves your device. Your operating system, whether that is Windows, Mac OS, or a standard Android or iOS installation, collects behavioral data independently of which browser you use. Applications on your phone harvest location data, contact information, and usage patterns that have nothing to do with your browser choice. The advertising infrastructure that funds the modern internet operates at multiple layers simultaneously, and addressing only the browser layer while leaving everything else untouched is like installing a lock on your front door while leaving every window open. Understanding this does not mean the browser choice is unimportant. It means the browser choice is one part of a larger decision about how seriously you take your own digital privacy, and it should be made with clear eyes about what it does and does not accomplish. So here's the practical, honest conclusion based on everything researched and tested. If you want the easiest possible improvement starting today, install Brave right now. It takes 5 minutes, it works identically to Chrome, and you are immediately more protected than the vast majority of internet users without changing a single habit. If you want stronger, more customizable protection, and you do not mind spending 30 minutes in settings, switch to Firefox, install uBlock Origin as an extension, disable telemetry in the privacy settings, and enable strict tracking protection. That combination gives you a transparent, nonprofit-backed browser with serious and well-documented protection. If you want the most private browsing experience currently available to ordinary people without specialized technical knowledge, use Tor browser for your sensitive activity. Use it for medical research. Use it for financial planning. Use it for anything you genuinely do not want logged, tracked, and sold. Accept that it is slower. Accept the limitations. Understand that what you are getting in return is something no other browser on this list can honestly offer. Privacy that exists in the mathematics of how your data moves, not in the language of a privacy policy written by a legal team. And regardless of which browser you choose after watching this, understand one thing with complete clarity. Incognito mode in any browser is not privacy. It is the absence of local history storage on your device. It does not hide your activity from websites. It does not prevent your internet provider from seeing what you are doing. It does not remove you from the advertising infrastructure that is watching every page you visit. The lawsuit against Google settled in 2023 with the question now is what you are going to do with that information.